You know, one of the hardest things I hear again and again from people in their 70s and beyond? I never thought I'd feel this alone at this point in my life. And every time someone says it, it cuts deep. Because behind those words is a quiet, painful truth that so many carry but rarely speak out loud. Loneliness doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers. It's in the silence of a home that used to echo with laughter. It's in the long, unbroken stretch of an afternoon when no one calls. It's in the holidays that used to be filled with faces, now marked by empty chairs and memories. And here's the thing, loneliness isn't just about being alone. It can settle into your bones like a cold draft that never quite leaves. It drains your energy, clouds your thoughts, and can even take a toll on your health. It's not just emotional, it's physical too. Take George. He's 74, widowed, and most days, he finds himself watching the same news channel with the volume up too loud, not because he cares that much about the news, but because it breaks the silence. His phone hasn't buzzed in days. He wonders if anyone would notice if he didn't show up anywhere for a week. Then there's Rosa. She's also 74. Her days aren't necessarily busy, but they're full. She's not surrounded by lifelong friends or a big family. Instead, she chats with the barista who knows her name. She volunteers at a nearby animal shelter twice a week. She recently joined a book club, not because she's a literary expert, but because she likes the sound of laughter around the table. Rosa isn't without loss. But she found a way to let her loneliness become a doorway, not a wall. The difference between George and Rosa isn't luck, it's choice, courage, and small steps. Because here's the truth, loneliness isn't a dead end. It's a signal. A quiet, persistent tap on the shoulder saying there's still more out there for you. More connection, more joy, more life, and you belong in all of it. You're not done building meaningful relationships. You're not invisible. And you're certainly not alone in wanting something deeper. If you've ever sat in the quiet and wondered where everyone went, or questioned whether your days still hold space for connection, I want to gently offer you this. It's not too late. Not to be seen. Not to be heard. Not to belong. The smallest steps can lead to the biggest shifts. A single moment of reaching out can begin to pull you out of the fog. It's not about grand gestures or fixing everything at once, it's about choosing one thing. One thread to tug on. One light to move toward. So let's begin right there, with one of the most powerful and unexpectedly healing ways to rekindle connection. Reconnect with someone from your past, but not in the way you might expect. Maybe you're thinking, I've already tried reaching out to old friends. People are busy, we've grown apart. And yes, that's true. Life has a way of scattering people like autumn leaves, beautiful moments shared, then gently carried in different directions. But what if the approach was different? What if instead of a quick text or a hopeful phone call, you sat down and wrote a letter? Not an email. Not a message on social media. A real, handwritten letter. Something slow, deliberate, thoughtful. Pick someone from your past, an old friend, a cousin you haven't spoken to in years, a neighbor you used to chat with over the fence. Think of one memory you shared that still warms you. Maybe it's "You always made me laugh so hard during our lunch breaks," or "I still think about that road trip we took in '85, how we got lost and didn't even care." Let me show you what this can look like. Eleanor, 72, decided to write to her college roommate, Maggie. They hadn't spoken in nearly 30 years. Life happened, careers, families, moves. But one evening, Eleanor found an old photo tucked in a book, and it stirred something. So she wrote a letter. Not long or formal, just a simple memory about sneaking cookies from the dorm kitchen and staying up laughing until sunrise. She mailed it and let go of any expectation. A few towns away, Dennis, 76, had been thinking about his younger brother. They hadn't spoken since a falling out over a family disagreement more than a decade ago. Instead of calling and risking an awkward silence, Dennis wrote a letter. Not to rehash the past, but to say, "I miss you. I hope you're doing well. I still remember when we used to race bikes down the old gravel road." Just that. Honest. Human. Eleanor got a letter back 2 weeks later. Maggie remembered the cookies too. And more than that, she remembered what it felt like to have a true friend. They've been writing ever since. Dennis? He never got a reply. But he said writing the letter lifted something off his chest. It helped him forgive, and it reminded him of the love that still lives under all that silence. That's the beauty of a letter. It doesn't demand anything. It simply offers. And in that offering, you reconnect, not just with another person, but with the part of yourself that remembers joy, laughter, closeness. You remind yourself that you're still part of a much bigger story, and it's not finished yet. Writing that letter? That's one way to reach backward and stir up something meaningful. But connection doesn't always have to come from the past. Sometimes, it's waiting for you in the most ordinary places, in the gentle hum of a coffee shop, the rustle of pages in a library, or a park bench warmed by the afternoon sun. Because here's the truth, you don't need a reunion to feel seen, you just need a place where you can show up. Let's talk about finding a third place that isn't home or family. You may have heard the term third place before. It's not home and it's not work. It's that other space, where you feel a quiet sense of belonging simply because you show up. No one's expecting you, no one's assigning you a role, you're just there. And that, especially in later life, can be priceless. For some people, it's a corner booth at the diner where the waitress refills your coffee before you ask. For others, it's a shady bench at the dog park where the same golden retrievers come bounding past each morning. Maybe it's a library aisle where you linger over travel books or mystery novels, nodding to the same quiet readers week after week. The magic doesn't happen all at once. It begins with tiny moments, a shared smile, a comment about the weather, a simple "nice to see you again." These exchanges don't seem like much, but they're the bricks of connection. One day you're just the guy who always orders the tuna melt, and the next, someone saves you a seat. That's how community starts, not with fireworks, but with familiarity. Let me paint a picture. There's Carl, 78. Ever since retiring, he found the days growing longer and quieter. So he started going to the same cafe every morning. At first, he just read the paper and kept to himself. But over time, he began to notice the regulars, the woman with the red scarf who always ordered peppermint tea, the college student scribbling in a journal, the barista with a tattoo of a sunflower. One day, Carl complimented the sunflower. That turned into a conversation about gardening. Weeks later, he was invited to a local plant swap in the park. Then there's May, 71. Shy by nature, not much of a talker. But she loved books. So every Tuesday, she visited the local library and sat in the same chair near the large print section. One afternoon, she noticed another woman, same age, same chair, just on Thursdays. May left a post-it note tucked into a book they both seemed to love. "I always see you here, what other authors do you like?" A week later, there was a reply. They've been trading book recommendations, and the occasional tea invitation ever since. Neither Carl nor May set out to make friends, they just showed up. Quietly. Repeatedly. And those small moments, the nods, the shared glances, the little acts of noticing, wove themselves into something deeper. And if you're thinking, "But I'm not outgoing," that's perfectly okay. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. You just need to show up and be present. Say, "That's a beautiful dog, what's his name?" Or, "I think I've seen you here before." No pressure. No performance. Just presence. That's how connection starts. Not by trying harder, but by being gently, consistently there. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you valuable content. Now let's continue with seeking out intergenerational friendships. One of the quiet, often overlooked gifts of growing older is the incredible richness of life experience we carry. Not just the big lessons, but the everyday wisdom. How to make a dollar stretch, how to calm a nervous heart, how to tell a story that makes people lean in. And yet, that wisdom often sits untapped, when it could be exactly what someone younger is longing to hear. You might be thinking, what would I even talk about with someone half my age? You don't have to decode the latest slang or keep up with trends. Intergenerational connection isn't about being hip. It's about being human. And humanity, in all its forms, is something you already know better than most. Young people today are navigating a fast, noisy, digital world. But do you know what they crave more than likes or followers? Real connection. Someone who listens without interrupting, someone who remembers a time when people talked face-to-face instead of screen-to-screen, someone like you. Take Lorraine and Malik. Lorraine, 75, met Malik through a local library mentorship program. He was a 19-year-old graphic design student, quiet but curious. At first, they weren't sure what to say to each other. She didn't know anything about digital art, and he'd never used a rotary phone. But one day, Lorraine brought in a photo album filled with pictures from the 1960s, road trips, dances, her first apartment. Malik was fascinated. He started asking questions. And soon, their weekly chats weren't just about art or assignments, they were about life. Lorraine became a sounding board for his goals, his fears, his dreams. And Malik reminded her that curiosity doesn't have an expiration date. Then there's Leo, 80. He lives in a senior apartment complex where he rarely saw anyone under 60, until he started volunteering once a week at a local community garden. That's where he met Tasha, 23, a college student studying environmental science. At first, it was just friendly chatter over planting rows of lettuce. But as weeks passed, Leo started sharing stories about farming with his grandfather during the war. Tasha, captivated, began recording their conversations for a class project. Now they grab coffee after every garden session, and Leo says she's the reason he looks forward to Fridays. Lorraine and Leo didn't set out to mentor anyone. They just showed up, shared a little, and listened a lot. And in doing so, they became something more than wise elders. They became friends. Co-conspirators in curiosity. Reminders that age doesn't close doors, it opens new ones. Start small. Ask a younger person to teach you how to use a voice app. Share a story about your first job. Attend a community program that brings generations together. You don't have to impress anyone, just be yourself. Because while you may feel invisible to the world sometimes, to someone younger, you could be the most interesting person they've ever met. What's one thing you wish someone had told you when you were younger, something you've only come to understand with time? Share it in the comments, I'd love to read it. Your story might be just what someone else needs today. You see, connection doesn't always begin with deep conversations or lifelong bonds. Sometimes it starts with simply showing up, listening, and sharing what you've lived. And that brings us to something just as powerful, maybe even more so, sharing what you know. Because there's a quiet kind of magic in your skills. The things your hands remember doing without thinking. The recipes, the repairs, the stories, the songs, those aren't just hobbies or old memories, they're bridges. And when you offer them to others, you're not just filling time, you're building something. There's something deeply powerful about taking what you know, what your hands remember, what your heart has practiced for years, and offering it to someone else. It's not just about keeping busy. It's about belonging. About realizing that the things you've spent a lifetime learning are still needed, still valuable, and still able to bring people together. Maybe you used to sew your kids' clothes, or rebuild old radios from scratch. Maybe you make the best gumbo in town, or tell the kind of stories that have people leaning in, smiling, waiting for the punchline. Whatever it is, it matters. And when you share it, something beautiful happens. Loneliness loses its grip, and connection takes its place. Take Jim and Bernice. Jim, 81, was a retired mechanic. After his wife passed, his days started blending into one another, quiet, slow, uneventful. One afternoon, he overheard a neighbor's teenage son struggling to fix his bike chain. Jim didn't say anything at first. But the next day, he wheeled out his old toolbox and knocked on their door. "Mind if I show you a trick?" That one moment turned into weekly tune-up lessons with a handful of neighborhood kids. Now every Saturday, Jim's driveway is full of bikes and laughter. Then there's Bernice, 76, a former elementary school teacher. She hadn't been in a classroom for over a decade. She missed it, but figured her teaching days were behind her. One day at the library, she saw a flyer asking for volunteer readers for a children's story hour. Nervously, she signed up. That first morning, she sat in front of a tiny group of wiggly 5-year-olds, reading Where the Wild Things Are. And something lit up inside her again. Now she reads every week, and the kids call her Miss B. Neither Jim nor Bernice started out thinking, "I'll fix loneliness today." They just took a small step, offering what came naturally to them. And in doing so, they became essential to the lives around them. You don't need to start a club or launch a big project. Maybe it's teaching someone to bake your famous banana bread. Maybe it's showing a neighbor how to tie a proper fishing knot. Or maybe it's just offering a listening ear and a piece of peppermint on a hard day. And if that voice in your head says, "But I don't have anything special to give," let me stop you right there. Being generous with your time is a gift. Being kind is a skill. Even just showing up with a smile, remembering someone's name, or asking "How was your day?" These things matter more than you know. Loneliness loves to whisper you're not needed anymore. But it's wrong. You're needed. You're still a teacher, a mentor, a neighbor, a storyteller. And your gifts, big or small, might be exactly what someone else has been waiting for. If you're still here and these ideas are resonating with you, drop a 4 in the comments. It means a lot to know you're on this journey with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect moment. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss a message that might lift your day. Your support truly makes a difference and doesn't just help us create, it helps us reach others who need this inspiration too. Now, let's continue with how animals can open the door to unexpected connection. There's something quietly magical about animals, the way they lower our guard, draw us into the moment, and connect us without a single word. They don't care how old you are, what you've been through, or what your social calendar looks like. All they ask is that you show up, and in return, they show you how to embrace the present moment. Take Harold. After his wife passed, his home felt more like a museum than a living space, full of memories, but painfully quiet. He'd leave the radio on all day just to fill the silence. Then one afternoon, his daughter arrived with a rescue dog in tow, all floppy ears and joyful chaos. Harold rolled his eyes and muttered, "I'm too old for this nonsense." But within a week, that scrappy mutt had him walking to the park twice a day. He started waving to other dog owners, then talking, then sitting on the same bench with the same group of pet lovers, sipping coffee and laughing about whose dog stole whose tennis ball. Harold wasn't just surviving anymore, he was part of something again. Now meet Lila, 79, a retired nurse who had always loved animals but couldn't keep one in her apartment. Instead of giving up on the idea, she found a new way in, volunteering at a local animal shelter. Every Thursday, she'd show up to walk the dogs, Muddy Paws tangled leashes and all. At first, it was just about the animals. But over time, she began recognizing familiar faces, other volunteers, families stopping by to adopt, neighbors bringing treats. One teenager started showing up just to walk alongside her. They didn't have much in common, at least on the surface. But they talked about the dogs. then about life, then about everything else. Harold and Lila never set out to make friends. They simply said yes, to a dog, to a shift at the shelter, to a few muddy paw prints on their pants. And in return, they found connection. Maybe you're not in a place to adopt a pet, and that's perfectly okay. Shelters are always looking for people to help walk dogs or cuddle cats. Neighbors might need a pet sitter. Even just hanging out at a dog park can turn a walk into a conversation. Animals are icebreakers in fur coats. They don't judge, they don't expect, and they have a way of attracting people who might just become part of your circle. You stop being the person eating alone at home and start being the one who always remembers Max's favorite treat. Because sometimes, the path out of loneliness isn't paved with big plans or deep conversations, it's just a leash in one hand and a warm nose nudging the other. Have you ever had an animal help you feel less lonely or more connected? Share your experience in the comments. Our final connection doesn't require leaving your house, but simply logging in. Technology can feel intimidating, especially with all the updates, passwords, and confusing buttons, but it doesn't have to be. You're not trying to become a tech wizard or learn every new app out there. All it takes is finding one tool that actually fits into your life and makes it easier to stay close to the people and passions that matter. Take Alice, 78, who lives alone in Florida. She had always been close with her grandchildren until they moved across the country to California. The distance left her feeling disconnected. But one day, her granddaughter Emma suggested they try video calls. Alice was hesitant. "I don't even know how to work the thing," she said, staring at her phone like it might bite. But Emma helped her set it up, step by step, showing her how to press the button to answer and reminding her about the mute button. A month later, Alice was video chatting with Emma every weekend. And not just Emma, soon, all the grandkids were calling, each from a different corner of the country. Alice wasn't just sending holiday cards anymore, she was seeing faces, hearing laughs, and feeling part of their daily lives. Technology didn't replace the visits, it brought the visits to her. Then there's Frank, who isn't as keen on video calls, but he had a different approach to technology. After his retirement, he realized he missed having friends around to chat about his lifelong love of woodworking. So he decided to try something simple. He joined a Facebook group dedicated to woodworking enthusiasts. At first it felt strange, but soon he was swapping tips, sharing pictures of his projects, and asking for advice on a new project he was working on. What started as a group of faceless names turned into friendships. One day, a guy from the group invited Frank to a virtual woodworking class. Frank was nervous, but it turned out to be a highlight of his week, a chance to connect with people who shared his passion, no matter where they were in the world. Alice and Frank each embraced technology in their own way, Alice with video calls that connected her across the miles, and Frank with an online community that gave him back his sense of camaraderie. They started with one small step. And in doing so, they found that technology isn't about replacing face-to-face interactions, it's about enhancing them. Maybe this week, you can start small too. Try sending a voice text to a friend or family member. Maybe next month, you'll join a virtual book club or find a Facebook group for something you love, be it gardening, knitting, or old TV shows. You don't need to be a tech expert, just find one tool that fits your life, and let it help you create connections in ways you might not have imagined. Because the truth is, technology can be your ally. It can help you bridge distances, fill your days with new interactions, and connect you to the people and communities that matter. If you've been feeling lonely, I want you to hear this: you are not invisible. You are not forgotten. The world still needs exactly what only you can offer: your stories, your quiet wisdom, even your perfectly timed eye roll at modern nonsense. Loneliness thrives in silence, and when we allow ourselves to stay isolated in that silence, it can grow louder and more consuming. But here's the beautiful truth: silence can be broken with just one small sound. It doesn't have to be grand or perfect. It's not about having the right thing to say or making a huge gesture. It's about showing up. Take that first step, no matter how small it feels. Send a text, make a call, knock on a neighbor's door, reach out in whatever way feels right to you, whether it's through a letter, a smile, or a quick voice message. You might be surprised how one small sound can shatter the walls of loneliness, not just for you, but for someone else too. Remember, connections don't have to be monumental to matter. Sometimes, it's the simplest acts, saying hi to a stranger, checking in with a friend, or sharing a moment of kindness, that have the power to change everything. So, don't wait for the perfect moment, create it. One sound, one reach, one connection at a time. It's the first step in opening the door to something bigger, a reminder that no matter how far apart we might feel, we're all just a little noise away from each other. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories and advice for overcoming loneliness or building new connections. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more practical tips to help you feel your best in your golden years. And if you found this helpful, share it with a friend who might benefit. Because here's the truth, we're all in this together, and every small step toward connection is worth celebrating. Until next time, remember this, you are capable of more than you know. Here's to living all your days with strength, connection, and belonging.